I don't even think the way that Knicks fans feel about Randall or Barrett or any of these guys is even close to what Nets fans felt about Allen or
Or,
Levert.
or
It just has a totally different vibe, and the Knicks fans are still thinking, and you can hear it because it's all already coming up. As someone who listens to New York sports radio every day, the constant question whenever a basketball reporter is on is, are like, let me ask you, are teams are players on other teams starting to now think of the Knicks as not a joke and are willing to come there in free agency? Like they're
yeah,
already looking around the room and seeing what other people have entered into the bar. Like
the
they're like
best
there's
case
no like
scenario for the best case scenario for them is that all of these guys are gone. That
yep,
all of
exactly.
these guys are packaged for real players. That is the
Yep.
best thing that could ever happen. Like they're saying the, the potential, the max potential of these particular players. Like I think we're that maybe Julius Randle has another step he can go to. I have no belief in this dude quickly. He makes some hard shots. Uh, he, but he doesn't have the athleticism for me.
I couldn't agree more.
And he doesn't have like he has two moves like she shoots threes and then he does that little push shot.
He's also in a best case scenario. He like comes off the bench and he basically gets the green light. A lot of guards could do that.
So I'm gonna merge this with on to Nets talk by saying, would you trade Nick Claxton for anybody on the Knicks?
um,
You are the Nets. You're Sean Marks. You have Nick Claxton. You have everything that you have on your team.
do I have to worry about like contracts or
No, just say that's like it's the olden days. You could just straight up trade.
it's honestly a really tough question because even guys like Randall and Barrett, like I don't want the ball. Like those guys are black holes. I don't want the ball
I
going
want
in their hand
we
when I
have
have three.
no use for those type of guys. Like Barrett cannot shoot enough to run with us. This is the slowest team in the NBA. They play at the slowest pace in the NBA. And they play so many minutes to get what they're getting. Julius Randle's per 36 goes down. The entire
Yo,
starting five of except for Harden, when you do per 36, it goes up. He's playing Harden minutes. For me, this is insanity.
and he
And
looks gassed. And at the end of every game now, he looks gassed.
exactly. Here's where we merge it on. I say this and I mean it with all of my heart. And I know that it's nonsense. I know that it could be refuted. I know that it's gonna come across crazy. But I say this to you, my partner Sam. I mean this with all of my heart. I wouldn't trade anybody. I wouldn't trade Alize Johnson for anybody on the Knicks. Now I know that is gonna sound provocative, but I'm not trying to be provocative. I mean this with everything I have. I'm not talking about value for value. I'm talking about if I'm building a team and I had to select anyone on the Knicks or Alize Johnson, I'm taking Alize Johnson.
I feel bad because yesterday I missed his run. That's when I switched over to the Mets for a little bit, so I missed his performance.
So you see how our rooting for um, uh, Nick Claxton has worked out.
Yep.
We 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 and the fellow Nets fans that listen to this podcast, we will this Nick Claxton minutes into existence. Did we not?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm taking credit for it. I have no proof. I have no. I just seen that we were mad about small forwards, and now we have LaMarcus Aldridge, and and Blake Griffin on our team. That's kind of surreal, right? Like we've been podcasting all year, complaining about the four position, and now and they may not even play for that much, considering, but they will. Um, we have Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. We also have been campaigning for Knicks Claxton to get minutes over DeAndre Jordan. And where is DeAndre Jordan now, Sam?
Yep, out of the rotation. Long time coming.
Hey, I think the front office podcast does its job, my partner. And that's why we got to keep coming out here for the people, because it I it may not reverberate in the ears of Steve Nash, even though I irrationally think it does. But it's, if Sean Marks said we are all in this together, right? He said he'll take advice from fans if it's a good piece of advice that goes with what he's doing. The next one has to be Alize Johnson. Steve Nash loves Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot. I think it's because he speaks proper French, and that's always impressive to Canadians. I personally think Alize Johnson is so much better than him and gives the Nets a dynamic that they do not have regularly. The Nets kind of are in mud when they play sometimes. The Nets are older, so they tend to kind of, plod up and down the court. When you have Alize Johnson and, God forbid, Nick Claxton at the same time on the floor, you're automatically energized. You're automatically athletic. You're moving at a pace that matches the intentions of your offense. And I just think he's more athletic. He's stronger. He's more dynamic. He rebounds better. He's just better than TLC. And what am I know it's a small sample size, but even like his performance in the G League tells you that this kid might be very good. Am I tripping, Sam?
No, I think you're totally right. I also think, I mean, look, I've been a supporter of TLC in part because I thought with the way he played last year in the bubble and even before that, I thought he really added like a little bit of a gritty edge. And I also thought his defense was way, way better last year. And this year it just looks like he's more focused on getting the ball and scoring. And so I'm with you. I think we're at the point where I don't really see, I can't really think of situations where TLC should really be playing with a healthy team. Whereas Johnson, I actually think there's kind of a role for him. Like, I think he does kind of energize the team when he comes in, and he brings a little bit of that. I don't want to like compare him to like a Precious or someone like that, but there is this younger, hungry energy from someone his size, which really does give them another gear.
They have no small forwards. They don't have many wings with his ability. I don't see how they let him go.
No, I think he'll be with them.
He has had so, I know it's crazy talk what I'm saying because he's played so much limited time, but Al Johnson is nice to me. Like I'm looking at this kid, I'm like, Sean Marks, you did it again. And I know they'd rather go through their methodical, thought out, slow process of not just ramping up, but just really developing, educating the player. This kid doesn't look like he needs much of that. You just need energy sometimes, and he gives it to you.
Totally with you.
All right. Let's wax poetically about Kyrie. You go first.
Look, the real thing that I feel about him, which I think cannot go understated, is like, as someone who has seen this team in like different arenas in Jersey and not being able to sell out finals games against Shaq and Kobe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
there really is something to, and it cannot be understated. There's something special. There's something to a player of his caliber that's not just a superstar, but also like someone who has a ton of attraction within the league with younger kids, with people in different countries, whatever. There's something special about him having a ton of pride in playing for the Nets, and what the amount of swagger that he feels actually that the Nets have and towards the Nets is something that you don't really that the Nets have never really seen, and it's kind of what people always thought of why people wanted to go to the Knicks. Like it's kind of like, oh, like being a part of this family and being a part of this. And you can tell that Kyrie truly wants to make like the Nets a preeminent destination, and there's something that he feels strongly about it. Now, look, like I could be totally be lost in the sauce right now and just be incredibly happy because he's also playing well and the team is playing well. But the way that he talks about the team is just not something that I've ever seen from any star with this team. Like Kidd never described anything like this. Carter, like D Will, like the list goes on. Like this is just not something we've seen. And look, it obviously helps that he's playing amazingly and that he honestly deserves to be probably a top 7 or 8 MVP candidate. And like I don't know, it's just like it's almost like to a certain extent I'm a little speechless because it's just like I'm thinking about like you who has younger kids that's growing up in New York, and to have a guy like that who really reps like the Nets, like the team that usually was 30th in jersey sales and stuff like that. And this is a point guard who has one of the highest selling jerseys and maybe like the most popular shoe besides maybe like LeBron's. And the fact that he's legitimately proud to be on the Nets is just I think it's a really awesome moment for the franchise.
I agree. I it is hard to describe something like this because only Nets fans know what it feels to be one of us, right?
Yep.
There's us now, and there's gonna be the us later. I mean, I think I told you, growing up in California, I didn't live in Northern California, but when we would go visit, um, I was shocked to see in San Francisco, everybody was Lakers fans. Everybody, like I'm talking about a group of kids that would play on that block that was like 12 kids. And the crazy thing is, none of them really live in San Fran anymore. Like you rarely see any black people in San Fran, but still,
Right.
these were San Francisco people. Like this was the hood of San Francisco in the mid and early late 80s. None of them were Warriors fans. All of them were Lakers fans. And I'm telling you, if the Nets win a championship this year and they follow it up with a subsequent championship, there's gonna be a generation of other Kyries, right? Like, because Kyrie is a byproduct of the same time that you're a byproduct of. Like, single dad, living in Jersey, taking his kid to a game, took him to the Nets, and he got to see Jason Kidd, and he got to see them win. That spirit, when he plays basketball for Kyrie Irving. He plays basketball for the artistic expression of it. But winning that game yesterday was about the rivalry of New York. Was about just quieting down our noisy neighbors, and was about something that only us Net fans know what it is. Like, we were feeling the pangs of, damn it, we got to go listen to these motherfuckers after this game.
Right.
And it's not good enough that we're 2-1 over them. It's not good enough that we're number 1 in the East. We have to sweep them to shut them the fuck up. And Kyrie was like, in getting his 40 last night and being the indomitable, just like skills merchant that he is, Kyrie did something for us, and that's why I always say Kyrie is the team MVP. Harden is the regular season NBA MVP,